I'm Mike Reininger, and I'm the president of Brightline. I've been fortunate in my professional career to be associated with people and organizations and opportunities that have been largely uncharted waters. They've been starting new businesses or doing things at a scale that are pretty unique. And some of those experiences were in the world of real estate development. Some of them were in the area of new product development for consumer-oriented products. Some of those things were in the world of transportation and infrastructure. But never before was the opportunity built of all of those things. And what we're doing with Brightline and with All Aboard Florida is really interesting in that it really draws on all of those different individual experiences into a bundle of things all at once.
Okay. How did Brightline come about?
So the idea for what is effectively reinstituting passenger rail service in the state of Florida came about out of an understanding that as we looked at the transportation landscape in the state, we observed a couple of important things. Number one, it's a very large and growing state. As a population base, it's now the third biggest in the country. It's growing at a rate about 1.5 times the rate of population growth of the rest of the country. It is a very large and potent economy. Big potent economies are reliant on infrastructure and mobility. They don't work if the underlying systems aren't well constructed and there's a high degree of mobility. So we saw that. We also saw that mobility in the state was largely limited to one thing, and that is personal automobiles on a road system that was constructed at a period of time when the population of the state was about 1/3 of what it is today. And as the economy grew and as the population grew over time, one thing that wasn't able to keep pace was the transportation infrastructure system. And so from those realities of the sort of evolution of the state came an opportunity or a need. And the need is for some alternative way to help people move about in the state, particularly to the places and from the places that they're moving back and forth from in large numbers. And that really means the concentration of population centers in the state. And then it became evident to us that the asset base that this company has as a result of its very colorful and historic legacy presented this very unusual opportunity, which is we are able to take an operating transportation corridor in the form of the historic Flagler Railroad that's been in operation continuously for 120 years, that if you look backwards into history, you can see that, in fact, that railroad was the infrastructure base upon which the state actually grew, and it exists in the way that it exists today. We hear a lot the sort of the supposition that Americans are car-centric and Americans love their car, and for sure that's true. It's less true today than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. It's probably going to be less true tomorrow than it is today. And I believe it's going to be less true tomorrow for a couple of reasons. Number one, if there's one thing Americans hate more than they love their car, it's being stuck in their car in unmanageable traffic. And when you look at the road infrastructure system in the country, and in particular in Southeast Florida, among the most congested road systems anywhere, what you're really presented with is being stuck in that car that you love so much, in an immobile situation, right? And so the realities of that make you love your car less because it doesn't work for you anymore. It's not convenient, it's not comfortable, it's not reliable. And so that is in one measure, you know, what I think turns people's understanding of, you know, the most attractive form of transportation into alternative modes. We studied passenger rail systems of all types around the world. And we came to some pretty important conclusions that sort of are our thesis about this. And we believe that trains work as the preferred method for people to go back and forth between places when you're servicing large population centers, number one, that have highly mobile, you know, activity bases between them, like the hundreds of millions of trips we talked about earlier that are taken, you know, between the 4 cities that we're ultimately going to be serving. But also when road congestion exists as a significant impediment to driving your car, like it absolutely does, particularly in Southeast Florida, that is a key driver that contributes to the success of profitable rail systems. But also where the points that you're connecting land in this 250 to 300 mile separation, and you can get there by train faster than you can drive, which generally means in a 3-hour sort of window. When you look around the world and you find operations that are successful and profitable, they all seem to have those fundamental characteristics about them. And when you look at our proposition, it's 235 miles between Miami and Orlando, very large population centers along the way, and by servicing those 4 cities where the populations are concentrated, we're able to deliver a service with a reliable technology in the trains that we will be running that gets you there in 3 hours. So it sort of meets all of the criteria that we see around the world that lead to successful and profitable passenger rail operations. And so that's what's informed our own product development thesis. There are jobs that are direct, as well as indirect and induced jobs. And so that means of our own account, we've got everything from corporate employees to operating staff, whether they be conductors or onboard staff or maintenance engineers or right-of-way maintenance personnel, marketing, sales, in a very broad cross-section of people that will be working directly for us. There will be other affiliated industries who will hire people as a direct result of what we're doing, in part to service us. And then there will be a whole slew of jobs that are generated out of the economic activity that those direct jobs and those indirect jobs ultimately create. And so it's that multiplying factor that comes from this new investment that really drives the total picture of the economic activity that's a result of this. When we think about the transportation service that we're building, we think about it in terms of a hospitality product, not a transportation service. We think about our customers ultimately as guests, and we think about how can we present ourselves in such a way that the customer feels like we are paying attention to them, that we're meeting their needs, and that we're really trying to deliver this service in a way that brightens their day. That is a very enjoyable, therefore repeatable, therefore compelling product offering that makes them want to keep coming back because they really enjoyed what they had, in terms of a service, not just because they had to get there and it was the fastest way or the most convenient way. It is going to be the fastest way. It is going to be the most convenient way. But at the end of the day, we want it really to be, absolutely the most enjoyable way too. And so it's that hospitality-oriented mindset that we're baking into everything that you see and touch and experience as it relates to what Brightline is about to become.